Thank you very much. How we doing? How we doing? There we go. That's better. I'll be brief because I know everyone here is eager to listen to Governor Huckabee. As I campaigned in the congressional primary last election cycle, people would often come up to me and ask, Rod, can one person make a difference? How can I, one person, make a difference? Every time I was asked that question, it reminded me of Oskar Schindler, made famous in the movie Schindler's List. You may have seen it. Oskar was a German entrepreneur who started a factory in Germany during World War II making canteens for the German army. He decided to employ Jews instead of Germans so that he could save their lives. He spent his entire fortune, his entire treasure, and all of his time saving 1,200 Jews from extermination during World War II. After the Allied victory, those 1,200 people that worked for him in his plants gave him a gold ring, and the ring was made of gold dental fillings from fellow Jews who were exterminated. Inside of the ring was the inscription, "Whoever saves one life saves the world entire." Whoever saves one life saves the world entire. I've never, ever forgotten those words, but quite frankly, they were hollow to me. I really couldn't apply them in my life until about 10 years ago. I was a volunteer coach at Dubuque Senior High School. It's an inner city school, so most of my players were African Americans. Most of them were from Chicago. That's where I met one of my players, Malcolm Stewart. Malcolm grew up on the south side of Chicago. His father, who disowned him, said Malcolm was not his son, was eventually murdered in a drug deal. His mother was a crack addict. They lived in vacant building after vacant building in the south side of Chicago. In fact, I have to tell this story. Malcolm was helping me insulate in my basement about 8 years ago when he lived with us. I said, Malcolm, run up to the garage and get me a roll of insulation, would you please? He said, what's that look like? I said, well, it's that pink stuff, looks like cotton candy. It's got paper on one side of it. So I went to the garage, came back down, and he said, Coach, this is insulation? I said, yeah, why? He said, this is what we used to cover up with at night. The Department of Human Services in Chicago told his mother, Angela, we're taking your children away. So she finally cleaned up her act and she moved to Dubuque, Iowa to try to start a new life for her and her kids, Malcolm being one of them. Here was a boy, Malcolm, who in the 6th grade when he arrived in Dubuque, Iowa, could not read. That's a discussion for a different day if we want to talk about public education system in our major cities. It's letting our children down. It's letting minorities down big time. Huge issue. They moved to Dubuque. I coached Malcolm at Dubuque Senior High School, and we kind of lost contact for a year. And then the Lord works in mysterious ways. So my wife Karen and I were working out in our 80-acre farm, and I said, let's go out to dinner tonight. She said, nah, I'm hot and I'm sweaty. I said, no, we're going to dinner. We deserve it. So we took showers, you'll be glad to know, and we went out to dinner. And who was bussing our table that night but Malcolm Stewart? I hadn't seen him in probably 18 months. I said, how's it going? He said, my mother, Angela, is dying of cancer, Coach. 42 years old, cervical cancer. I said, here's my cell phone number. Call me if you need anything. 3 days later, he called me, and I will never, ever forget it. He said, Coach, I'm an orphan. I'm an orphan. I said, after you bury your mother, Malcolm, let's go to lunch. We got together. We went to lunch. And at the end of the lunch, I said, Malcolm, do you want me to be a part of your life? And he said, yes, Coach, I do. So he moved into our home. He moved into our hearts. And we were tough on him. I mean, we were the definition of tough love. And we set high standards for him. No drinking, no drugs, No staying out past 11 o'clock at night, and you have to get a B average in college, or you won't be living with us. Now, I wouldn't have held him to that, but he didn't know that. So we combine a loving atmosphere with high standards, discipline, and I'm pleased to say in May, in 2 months, Malcolm's going to graduate from the University of Dubuque with a 3.87 grade point. He made all conference, all academic. I'm so proud of him. He's going to go on and get his master's degree. And as I was campaigning last cycle, I said, I'd love to take all the credit for this, but I really can't take any of the credit for it because Malcolm is a shining example of what we need more in our society, and that's something called personal responsibility and a loving, disciplined environment that these kids can grow and thrive in. So today, when someone says, can one person make a difference? Now those words are not hollow to me in the answer that whoever saves one life saves the world entire. Those words mean something to me now. And as Christians, I believe we're called to save that one life. And if we all do that, the entire world will be saved. Thank you very much for listening to me.